I'm keen to push some story which has not really been picked up by people, which I think is going to be important in terms of people either receiving by post or going along to the polling station and being given, in the English Shires, lots of ballot papers to fill out. And I think at that point they've got some interesting and important decisions to make, which will become clear, and that may well impact on how the general election voting. Colin showed you the time series of the national equivalent vote. This is, those unfamiliar with this, just very briefly, we take the results from local council by-elections that happen throughout the year, and we look at those by-election data in terms of a national equivalent vote. And so what we're doing is a kind of monthly running total of where the parties stand. And you can see the black line there marks the event of the 2010 general election, and you can see the sharp decline for the Liberal Democrats, the yellow line, which is picked up more or less entirely by Labour. So Labour is the kind of beneficiary of the Lib Dem slump in local council by-elections after the general election. You can then see in autumn of 2012 the rise of UKIP in the by-election model, and which again peaks in 2013 and again in 2014. So that's the monthly time series. Remember, these are as politicians want to say, these are real votes in the real ballot boxes. Let's just briefly look at how this compares with the national polls. So this is a weighted quarterly average for the by-election model against the national opinion polls, and that's the line for the Conservatives. The solid line is always the by-elections, the dotted line is the opinion polls. So the solid line is the real data, local council election votes. And you can see there that they're in harmony with one another. For Labour, slightly underperforming where they are in the opinion polls, but nothing odd about that. That's a long-term pattern. For the Liberal Democrats, what you saw after the polling, they just fall off a cliff after the 2010 general election and never recover. The decline in local council by-elections is less sharp, but nevertheless they've caught one another up here. So this gap that used to be upwards of 5 percentage points is now narrower, and therefore they're neither performing well in the opinion polls nor in terms of the local council elections, which kind of raises issues about we doing better in our area, this sort of thing. And one of the patterns is that them candidates have been withdrawn from local council elections. They're simply not fighting in lots of places. So before, in the good days, they would always find a candidate. Now it seems that they struggle even to find candidates. This is UKIP. So that you can hardly see a difference between their national polling and their performance in local council by-elections, which is really very good indeed, because it takes a lot of effort to get local votes, and they're running campaigns often for the very first time, and they're doing pretty well, not winning huge numbers of seats, but nevertheless attracting votes, and it's simply not disappearing very much. Now, I think the most crucial thing of what I want to say is a neglected aspect and feature of the general election is that people will be given a local vote as well as a general election vote, and God help them, in some cases, a parish council vote. So they've got all these ballot papers, and therefore, in the case of the districts, also, they'll have either 2 or 3 votes to cast. So we obviously, Colin talked about the number of nominations that have been revealed, but in a lot of places the detail matters, because some people will have, say, 1 UKIP candidate to vote for when they've got 3 votes in the local elections. So they'll have a general election vote and up to 3 local votes. And therefore there's kind of plenty of scope for split ticket voting. And more on this in a moment, but split ticket voting in previous general election and local elections has been rather important and rather large. and there's no reason why it won't happen again. If there is large-scale split-ticket voting, then you don't want to be at the bottom of the alphabet in the local elections, because people who are at the bottom of the ballot don't do as well as people at the top. Right? People don't think very much about local elections, and therefore they just, find the first UKIP candidate and vote for them, or whatever. So you're alphabetic voting, and also some voters clearly discriminate against names on the ballot paper as well. So we found evidence of clear name discrimination. Okay, so we got these two elections side by side as we did in 2010, and what we know from 2010 is that the Conservative and Labour parties will do better in the general election than they will in the local election. Conversely, Liberal Democrats will do better in the local election than they will in the general election. And you can see here a rather interesting ratio of the general election and local election, which is that if Colin talked earlier about the national equivalent vote for the local elections, we would multiply that by 1.1 to get where we think they're going to be for the general election. Ditto Labour, and we would multiply Lib Dem vote. So that was the pattern in 2010, and we asked Survation to put a question on one of their polls for us, which asked people, you've got, on general election day, you'll have local votes as well as general election votes. Are you prepared to split your vote? And we found the polling evidence almost exactly supports the pattern of 2010. Unbelievable. The ratio between people who will vote Conservative in the general election but switch to another party gives you a ratio of 1.1, same with Labour, and the Liberal Democrats is more or less the same. So the current polling evidence, albeit from one poll, the current polling evidence repeats that people will perhaps more likely cast their general election vote for one of the two established parties at the same time as supporting one of the smaller parties for their local election. Our estimate on the number of split-ticket voters is between 10 and 15%. 10 and 15% of voters in the English shires will split their ticket. I personally believe that to be an underestimate. I think there will be more, and it would be nice if some pollsters came along and tried different methodology, because I think we could probably discover more. So what does it all mean, finally? It gets there. We think, we know these coefficients are there. We need to multiply the Conservative vote, the Labour vote, and the Lib Dem vote by a certain level. So this is our best guess for the general election. A dead heat between Conservative and Labour in terms of the popular vote. The Lib Dems with 10%, UKIP on 13, and others for 11. And we do various kind of adjustments in terms of the uniform swing model, and then we look at England and Wales only. Then we factor in, of course, Scotland, but I'm not going to talk about that at all, and Northern Ireland, and then we finally get to a point where we suggest that Labour will be marginally ahead in terms of seats, maybe